Hello.
What's up?
What's up? Well, welcome to the Bobby Choo podcast, episode 4. Here's your podcast where we talk about all things audio. Hey, Johnston, you're looking at me like a bit embarrassing.
I look at
Why,
you.
you got the script wrong, is it?
No. Do you have a script? I don't think I have a
No,
script.
actually, we don't have
Yeah,
a script. But today we have a special guest with us.
Yes, super special.
Very, very special. He likes to play a lot of games, and they're normally quite impossible to play.
Well played.
We'll go into that.
And he is also he's actually my colleague and a privilege that I can call friend
Wow.
as well. Yep. And I'm trying to think what other cool ways I can sort of embarrass but big him up at the same time. He eats super fast. I call him the human Dyson.
The human diet.
He has a really high spice tolerance level like you've never seen before.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Now not as good lah.
Was
It
it?
used to be good.
Okay.
My training was eating, those samyang noodles?
Oh.
There was a time when I had like a samyang obsession, so I would eat that like every day. So
Wow.
at that point, my spice tolerance was up here.
Insane.
Current
But-
spice levels
yeah.
is
Insane.
It's
it's
next
quite
level.
insane.
Yeah, exactly.
It is quite insane.
Exactly. And then also, he is a very esteemed guitarist and
Yes,
singer.
he is.
Yep. He leads worship for HTBB.
Wow.
He wrote a few good songs from HTBB.
A few good songs.
The rest are really
Not
bad.
really hits, but a few good songs.
And also, he's also an artist as well.
Right.
He used to paint for a living. I'm trying to go through my list of how much I know this person.
Okay.
I'm not gonna reveal the name first.
Okay.
You said friend, so this will really test our friendship.
Yes, friend,
But the
and-
white shot told us really.
And then so he's a fitness guy.
Okay.
He plays music. He is also an artist, a painter. He's also a really good copywriter as
Okay.
well. He used to be a copywriter. He also used to run a consulting firm
All right.
as well. During COVID time with his wife, and his dad, and a whole lots of important smart people. And then also he obviously runs a podcast right now called The Game of Impossible. And then also he used to be in fitness as well. He used to be really built.
Yes.
And now he's still built, but
Still
just
super built.
not muscle, but more
remember
like
it's like
core.
ripped.
No, man. Yeah. So
I've
he
been
used to be
working on the
that.
one pack.
And then obviously he's also a husband. He also co-runs the creative team at HTBB. And he's also currently interim CEO for PEMANDU as well, which is a consulting firm.
Wow.
That's like 10 things already, and I think there's more.
There's definitely loads more things.
Yeah,
to
but he is none other than Leon Jala.
Hey!
Welcome Leon to the Bobby Choo podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Did I pass the friendship test?
Yeah,
by the way?
good.
Yeah.
That's that you even mentioned stuff in there which I forgot about.
But yeah, man, thanks so much for joining us. Do you want to share with our audience a bit of who you are, a bit of
Yeah.
I know I sort of giving you my version of how I see
Yeah.
you as my friend and mentor and colleague
Colleague.
and boss
Yep.
and everything else. But how do you want to be?
Yeah, no, I think
known
you've
as?
you've pretty much listed everything. Maybe for those who aren't aware, I'm Sarawakian. I'm a Kelabit, so we're from one of the smallest tribes in East Malaysia. So the joke is that my ancestors were headhunters, and then when we say headhunters, people are usually like, oh, like corporate headhunters, is it? I'm like, oh, you guys are really into HR. But no,
HR
like
from way before.
yeah.
Wait, when the first original HR was,
HR.
man.
Yeah, exactly. But no, our ancestors literally would chop people's heads off.
I got a
for-
question. I guess I had a friend that he.
You had a friend.
I know.
Yeah, until his head was chopped off.
No, he's still.
Oh, he's still
So far I know. So he's also from Sarawak as well. They
Yeah.
say he also came from a lineage of headhunters. I don't know. You know this guy called Daniel Suba? Okay,
No.
never mind. Just throwing it out there. Never mind. So, what does it what does it mean? You came from a family of headhunters. What does it mean now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously, to be clear, we don't do that
Yeah, okay.
anymore.
Okay, Caleb, you're fine.
So
I'm cool, I'm
don't
cool.
worry,
Cool?
don't
Just
worry.
in case.
It's safe to have sharp objects around. So what does it mean?
Yeah.
I think now in terms of how we preserve the culture, obviously no chopping of heads. But I think there are some things which are quite like fundamental to
Right.
maybe not even just Kelabit culture, but I think all the other East Malaysian traditions is I think just generally a love for the arts. So a lot of you speak to a lot of Sarawakians, even if they're like holding like corporate positions, they're all usually quite good at music or
Right.
painting or something like. And I think I've always wondered like why is that? And I think beyond just the love for the actual skill, I think what ties it together is across the board there's an appreciation for storytelling.
Right.
And that's the tradition, because usually what we do is you sit around the fire and then you just tell stories, and they can be like they can be serious stories, it can be like really funny stories, but there's this real culture of storytelling. And so I think naturally from there then it finds expression in other places like music, in art, and things like that. So I mean, if you ask what does it kind of look like to be an East Malaysian today, I would say it's that lah, an appreciation for storytelling, an appreciation for creativity.
Wow. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that is
That's
really
like
cool.
Amazing. I'll add another thing onto my list of things that I know about Leon.
Yes.
He can put things very eloquently.
Yeah, that was actually very.
that was like super eloquent, man.
Yeah.
I'm like a bit blown away by that.
It's like he went and then he kind of like brought us down a little path, and he like
Storytelling, bro.
storytelling. Yeah, he just
Storytelling.
story told us like mid-section and while
Boom.
in his
Only now because you started recording. Before this, we're talking about chewing lah. Won't say the exact context
we'll
of
get to
that.
the
but-
problems of audio teams later.
Yeah, we're good. But
The
and-
core problems. Yes.
Yeah, and like I think why we thought you'd be great for the podcast, because this podcast mainly we talk about audio and also ministry and bridging the gap between professional and ministry. Well, not professional, but corporate life and ministry life. In the sense of like there are a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and when Johnston and I were thinking about who we should invite, like your name was like one
Yeah.
of the few names that came up, because
Definitely.
I think you had a great corporate background, and then now you're in ministry, but also still have a very active corporate background, and you also understand both ends of like the creative side, the business side, the ministry side, the more secular corporate side. So we're like, mate, like
All kind of sides.
All kind of sides.
All kind of sides.
yeah. So we just thought you'd be like a great person to
Yeah. I pick your
to
brains
talk
as
to.
well.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I enjoy listening to your
thank you.
podcast.
Oh, thanks,
actually,
You've been sharing
I've had quite a few
episodes.
laughs listening to it.
Yeah, actually, we go off tangent quite often.
yeah, we do go off quite tangent.
fun.
But the main topic we want to pick your brains on for today is so Johnston and I, we run audio teams. So Johnson runs
Yeah.
audio team in Collective. I obviously run it at HTBB.
Mhm.
Do you want to check something?
Oh no. Oh no, it's just. No, it's still recording.
Okay, still recording. Cool. Anyway, so we both run audio teams in our own church. And one of the things that we get a lot as sound engineers, we get a lot of opinions and a lot of feedback, a lot of kind feedback,
Yep.
sometimes
Unkind feedback.
unkind feedback.
So this is
sometimes.
where Caleb is gonna say,
Yes.
Leon, you know that feedback you gave last time, right?
No,
It's terrible.
no. I was
March 24th,
well,
2022.
I would say my working experience with Leon, I don't think he has ever said one thing that is like unkind. I'll put
Oh,
it that
that
way.
you know what, that is
Oh,
true.
really?
Though. I
Yes.
think generally my at least my encounters with
Uh-huh.
you has just been you're a very kind person.
Yes.
You
Even
read.
though your feedback is sometimes very, I'd say you don't sugarcoat it. So when it's bad, you say
Yeah.
it's bad.
Right.
But it's always kindly bad.
Kindly bad.
Kindly
Okay.
bad.
I'm gonna remember that one.
Kindly
Next
bad.
time
Which
we
is
do a talk
actually
on culture
very hard to
feedback.
Guys, how to be
Third
kindly
point, what is it? Kindly bad.
Kindly
Yeah.
bad.
And then I think that then also underlying it as well as like the direction of like a sound team, because like
Yeah.
for us, we always feel like sound is always very important and everybody's very passionate. We feel like everybody's very passionate about sound. But then sometimes there's a lot of opinions, a lot of directions, but no one really knows what direction it is, because no one really knows about audio in that technical sense. There's a lot of technical aspect
right.
to
Yep.
to audio. So yeah, so we just wanted to like we always face that as a struggle. Johnston and I will like go for lunch and we will do recording. We always talk about, hey, how's team doing? How you feeling about this? How you feeling about that? And so yeah, we just thought like, why don't we just talk about it with you and get some advice? We're also, even though it's a podcast, we're also probably learning as well.
Can
So
just get a free lesson out of you.
yeah, basically free lesson. Yeah, I know the game of impossible.
I'm definitely getting a free lesson out of you. Like your setup here is super cool, man. It gives me a lot of ideas for
Thanks, man.
mine.
Yeah.
But so like how, in a nutshell, obviously that's a very big topic. We can go into granular as we go along, but yeah, could you just share with us how, in your experience, have you had an experience such as like that? If it's audio, even better. But if it's not, then that's fine. But how have you had an experience where you have encountered something like this, where there's a lot of opinions?
Yeah.
There's a lot of directions, and you're at the job of like you're still the one calling the shots, and you still have to please everybody, but also you have to please yourself. And what do you do?
Yeah, I think for me, so I started my career in advertising.
Right.
So with that, naturally you're receiving a lot of feedback all the time. And sometimes you're not necessarily receiving very kind feedback as well. Generally we work with some really good clients, but there's like there's a couple I think that have been quite formative in terms of how now I approach feedback. And sometimes I always feel like you've got to receive really bad feedback to be a reference point for what not to do next time.
Yeah.
And so when you're in that kind of environment, a corporate environment, and let's say you got a nasty client, or sometimes it could even just be someone in your team as well, disagreeing with a certain approach. Feedback can be quite difficult, especially when it's when it's to do with creative stuff, right? Because there's so much subjectivity to it.
Yes.
How do you also personally discern what is valuable feedback to take in, and what is stuff that you just need to tune out of?
Yeah.
So I think maybe for me to answer your question, there's been a lot of instances of receiving bad feedback. Sometimes that has also led to me giving equally bad feedback because you sort of absorb your surrounding, right? So if you're in an environment where maybe people are not very intentional about how they give feedback, on the one hand, it can give you tools or gives you a reference point of what not to do, but sometimes that can also become a little bit of how you give feedback. So a combination of being aware, receiving bad feedback, but also having given bad feedback, and then had bad feedback on your feedback, that then becomes like the learning cycle.
Right.
Like a feedback loop, man.
Okay, I got a question. Like, us being creatives, I think a lot of times we pour our heart and our soul into a lot of these projects, and sometimes it can feel very personal. So when the feedbacks come in and, well, they're negative, how do you kind of like sort of navigate that? As a leader, sometimes these young people, I say as if very old like that.
We were just laughing about the word youngsters the other day. These youngsters,
oh my gosh, we're the age. but like there are a lot of really young guys, and they come in very passionate, and sometimes they attach their work with their personality or themselves, and sometimes it's just really like bleh. So how do you as like a leader kind of navigate that kind of space?
I mean, but I think all of us, especially as creatives, are probably guilty of that. Like I certainly am, and for me it's still a work in progress. I think my natural instinct, even now when you have all the awareness of what you're not supposed to do, if someone gives me negative feedback, by default the first place I go to is you start to take it a bit personally, right? But I think for me what has helped is then if you can't control your kind of default reaction, what you can control is your kind of surrounding. And so then what we try to practice at HTBB, and we do this also in PEMANDU, is we try to frame our conversation so that there's like almost a fixed a set agenda and a template to how you have these conversations. So a good example would be let's say we have like a weekly one-to-one touch point, so between you and your manager, and vice versa, and in that one-to-one you have this set play of like you start with what's been going well for you, where have you been winning this week, then you go into where you challenge.
So it's so what I'm hearing is that it's very intentional, so of how you kind of approach.
You have to kind of frame it like you frame the touch points for talking about stuff that maybe isn't so nice, because if you like, let's say if you go into a one-to-one with, let's say, your leader, your manager, and you're expecting that every week when we go through this chat there's going to be space for both ways, for feedback.
right.
So that could be my manager giving me feedback, but it's equally a space for me to give feedback. That helps make it feel less of a personal attack now because it's expected.
Okay.
you know?
Okay.
So you can also start to anticipate that.
Right.
I know I'm probably gonna get feedback on this thing, so I can prepare myself.
Okay.
I can, as Christians, then we can also pray into it. Like, so I
Right.
know for me, if I know I'm gonna go into a conversation like this, and knowing my default tendency, I would say like, God, like, can you please help me to not go to that default and not say anything, in
Yes,
response
yes,
to
yes.
that. lah. So I think careful and intentional framing around the conversations is helpful.
Yeah.
I think that helps a lot.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that, and I think coming from working with Leon as a
Yep,
colleague, I can be a testament that that actually has
Right,
carried
right.
through.
Because
So it's not just like say and no action, but actually it is something that we try to do.
I kind of like
and
this
it's a
whole idea of
framework,
having like a structure of it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise sometimes you can get very, I guess sometimes you can get very emotional.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like there's no game plan, you just kind of just say whatever you want to say, and
Yeah.
like at the end, like, oh.
Yeah.
I think another point to that is, like when we do this, usually you kind of give an opportunity for the other person to be the one to bring up the feedback on their own. So we try to promote that
Right,
self-awareness,
okay.
because sometimes you kind of let's say like something goes wrong on a Sunday, whatever lah. Like for me, maybe I play like a wrong note on the
Right,
guitar,
right.
and I'm obviously fully aware that happened. Now, if whoever's leading worship on that day asks me, hey, what do you feel didn't go so well? And I have the opportunity to be the one to say it myself. I played the wrong note, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Then I'm in control of that situation.
Okay. Right.
Versus going to the default of why did you do that wrongly? Because chances are most people would kind of be aware of where they messed up anyway. Sometimes it feels annoying when you already know what the problem was, and then someone tells you anyway, and so you don't know.
I know.
You know?
Thanks for saying for what the sound guys always feel like.
Yeah.
We're like, we know.
Like, I know.
We know, man.
We are aware and we are
There is
working on it.
feedback,
That's
yes, I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's actually very, very interesting. And I think also want to pick on your brains on like that topic as well, like giving feedback. How do you, expanding on that, how do you give, or how do you like receive feedback or give feedback to somebody who you're not necessarily well versed in? So like a true testament I can share from my example is that I work with you, Leon, quite a lot in terms of even Game of Impossible or even in work stuff. And I would say like maybe you don't have the audio expertise of like say for us, for instance.
Wow.
But then how do you navigate that knowing that you're still my leader, you still have a direction to set,
Right.
but you actually don't know what for instance, you don't know what EQing is. You don't know, you only can say this thing sounds X like this. But then how do you navigate that situation? Because I think to be quite honest, like a lot of people maybe don't know how to navigate that situation of like...
I guess like maybe a lot of
right?
people who lead some teams, they are not as technically proficient.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just
They don't really
just
know
don't
how
have
to come, or
technicality.
like maybe they don't feel comfortable with that. But I've noticed that you always, even though you don't know what the particular thing is, but you can always convey in a like what we say, a very kindly bad or not kindly true way, which is actually very helpful and is a super skill to have that I found that that's actually really, really inspiring. And but how do you do that if you don't mind sharing your work
I think
process?
so it depends also on your context.
Yeah.
So for me to give this as a blanket statement, it might not be helpful to everyone.
Yeah.
But something that we always talk about in the consulting firm that I'm at, we have this thing of practicing situational leadership. And situational leadership is actually identifying and discerning when to shift your leadership style from being directive and then being empowering.
Right.
So people tend to think, I'm either a directive leader or I'm an empowering leader.
Right.
But actually the real art of it is being able to do both, depending on the skill level and the competency of your team. So generally at the start of something, then the default would be to have a more directive approach, because you're still at, let's say if it's a project, the project is still in its infancy, it needs a bit of direction, and maybe at that point we might not have that kind of competency level to be able to empower.
Right.
But you want to then get to a point where if you've got a really strong team, then you get to a point of empowering. So in this example, at HTBB, I mean, you guys are at a really high level of skill already.
Oh, thanks.
Which is why for me, my stance then is like one of trust. So if there's
Right.
something wrong, if I feel like there's something wrong, then generally our conversation would be something like, hey, something kind of felt a bit off to me. I try to define it as clearly as I can. Obviously, I will have a limited vocabulary for, the technical sides of things, but I will still try to say, maybe it felt as though, at least to me, I wonder, is it because bass felt a little bit low? But then I throw it to Caleb as more of an opportunity to problem solve together.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
let me know, is that what you think it is as well? Or even did you also feel it? Or is it just me? And Abby, who used to do my role.
Shout out to Abby.
Yeah, shout out to Abby.
Hi, Abby. Are you there?
Yeah, she did this really well, and actually I learned that from her. And she would always approach a problem from the standpoint of, you know best, but I noticed something, so please correct me if I'm wrong. And she would take it to an extreme of sometimes saying, oh, this might be a really stupid thing to say.
Right.
But actually when you do that, what it does is it really just disarms the conversation.
Right.
And then if there's no real basis for the feedback, then that also makes you feel like it's a safe space to say that, actually, no, I think honestly it's fine. But I think just generally disarming the conversation is always a good place to start. But having said that, I think for me it's easy to do that because the whole team is just at a very high level of skill.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Safe space.
Safe
I think that's what I'm really, really hearing.
But even though that word is used too much, but
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but
Sometimes it's quite a cringy thing.
Yeah, safe space.
This is a safe
This
space.
is a safe space,
It's like
guys.
something you tell somebody, this is a safe space. But I might tell someone that no. But I think what you say is really, really true. Like, so
Yeah.
sometimes, I guess when tensions are high,
Yeah.
then you feel like everybody's kind of coming at you with if let's say there's a problem, you feel like, oh, this person's gonna directly come at me, which I think Caleb on the last, can't remember, it was our last conversation, he said that even when he was kind of struggling with some problems with the console and stuff, nobody was there like, Caleb, why is this not what what he felt like. Generally it's a safe space.
Yeah.
People are like, hey, anything I can do to help,
Yes.
which is great.
Which is great. Yeah.
But I guess not every team or not every leaders or teams have this kind of thing, which is nice that Caleb has a safe space.
Yeah.
I also feel like I have a safe space here.
Yeah.
Also at collective also so. But so how would you encourage this type of, I guess, leadership style or this? How would you implement this into kind of teams that don't already have this, or maybe they think they have it, but
they don't.
They don't.
Yeah, that's a good question, right?
Like,
Because
how,
sometimes-
maybe they say, you know what, I provide a safe space for my people, but they just don't want to talk to me. Like,
Yeah.
how would you navigate that?
How would you navigate that?
I think you just try to gather facts. I think in the area of creative stuff, right?
Yep.
It always gets so difficult because the nature of it is subjective.
Yeah.
But as much as we can, actually, if you really think hard enough, there are ways to find objectivity in some of the decision making.
Yeah.
So I think if, let's say, you're dealing with a case of someone with low self-awareness, actually the skill level is low, but they think they're really good. Is there a way that we can gather evidence of other people, encouraging other people to also give feedback, so then it doesn't become just one voice,
Right.
but actually, over time, if I keep hearing the same thing from a few other people, maybe I should consider, am I the problem? So Abel, our associate vicar, he always says that actually conflict and toxicity is birthed out of not having the right conversations in place. So I think for us, we try to encourage having the right conversation. And so one practical way that plays out is if someone in the team, let's say, has some feedback for another person, and if you're, let's say, in a pastoral situation where obviously, you want to support this person, you be a listening ear for them, then what we usually will encourage is, after having listened to them, we would always try to encourage, I'd love for if whatever you have felt about this project or this person, could you try to maybe have that conversation directly with that person?
Right.
Because again, that's part of the evidence building, right? Because if
Right.
you just give me feedback and want me to tell this other person about it, then it will just look as though it's one person's opinion.
Right.
Versus
Right.
I will still do that,
Yep,
but it'd be
yep.
really helpful if you also do it, and then
Right.
that's just becomes part
Okay.
of the evidence building.
Right.
And it's hard, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
hear sometimes difficult truths.
Yeah.
But I think if all of us, if we look back at when have been our most formative seasons, like for me personally, they have been through actually seasons of dealing with really hard truths about whether it's my skill or whether it's my leadership abilities, and hearing it from a few different sources.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't mind, I would love to pick on. Could you share an example, like, because you say you had a few examples where, people told you like that was quite formative. Do you mind sharing one example so that we can sort of like relate and?
Yeah, easy one. So in before I joined HTBB, there was a time when we had a whole marketing arm under PEMANDU, which is
Right.
the consulting firm that I'm
Yeah.
at currently. We did our own kind of spin-off, and it went really well. But I think it was like kind of like the classic case of like gaining a lot of momentum, and then with that and with success, starting to feel like I'm God's gift to mankind.
You are.
But quite honestly, that was my arc in that period.
Right.
So we did really well as a
Yeah,
company.
yeah,
We
yeah.
grew the team, and it was such a great time. We had so much fun.
Right.
But then if I look back, and at the first few years it was great. If I look at the kind of last year in that journey, I think I got to a place where I actually wasn't a very good leader.
Oh,
Right.
And that was because for me, I think I was always so my mindset was always about how can I be the best person in the thing that I'm doing, and it was so me oriented that even though we did so well, actually in the process of doing well, I actually realized, well, it did well because I was doing well, but actually our team wasn't really growing.
Right.
And so naturally, if you're not having like a team focus in the
Right,
things
right.
that you're trying to build, then that can only get you so far, like, and it
Right,
doesn't
right.
really scale. So like practically what that looked like for me was then, eventually starting to hear feedback from a few people about how they felt. I think the work that we do here is really fun.
Right.
But actually, honestly, I'm not really learning,
Right,
and I don't
right.
see much in terms of career progression.
Understand.
Gotcha.
So I think that was kind of a turning point for me. Hearing that feedback, but then also personally experiencing the consequence of not training up other people well, because on the one hand you have people who feel like they are not being developed, but then for me I suffered because then when we went into lockdown in that 2020 period, I experienced burnout for the first time, and I used to always like trivialize that. It wasn't burnout thing, like people are like people are
no
weak.
mileage. You guys got no mileage.
Yeah, like people are
What is
weak,
burnout?
burnout.
Weak.
Yeah.
But then I experienced it,
Wow.
and when I looked back,
Right.
I actually like sought like therapy for it, and that was another thing that I used to
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
trivialize. Who needs therapy?
Yeah.
Well, I went to see a therapist, and like the therapist deduced that the reason why I feel like that is because it's actually not because of the volume of work that you're doing. Obviously, there's a huge
yes.
volume of work,
Yep.
but it's not solely because of the volume, but it's because of the mindset
Right.
behind the volume of work that you're doing. And she said that in my case, it was because I was doing everything and operating from a belief that I wasn't good enough.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay.
And so if I think that I'm not good enough,
Right.
I approach the task not, the resource I'm expending is not just the physical resource to approach a task or
Right.
project, but there's also like now an additional mental load of having to do this with this heaviness of trying to prove myself.
Right.
And because I was constantly trying to prove myself, it meant that if there were areas where I could have delegated something, I would have a tendency to not delegate it because
Right,
it
right.
might look as though I'm not doing enough as a leader. But then I realized I was having the reverse
Right,
effect, right?
right.
Because by doing it, then
Yeah.
other people feel, well, but like I'm not learning. So
Right.
give me more.
Wow.
So I think that for me was a bit of a turning point, having experienced the negative effects of not developing other people while not having the right conversation.
Right. Wow. Thanks so much for
Thanks,
being
man.
so honest and transparent.
Man, this
about
episode is
Yeah.
getting serious. This is sorry for
Getting very serious.
if your
No,
audience
no.
is.
No, this is great.
No, but no, I think these are things a lot. What? Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, I know.
Just
Same.
like-
I was literally gonna say that joke, bro.
Getting lower and
same,
lower.
man.
Lower and lower.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate like
Yeah.
you being so honest, so like in some sense so vulnerable as a leader,
Yeah.
sharing these kind of things, because I think a lot maybe people who we lead might always feel oh these guys are like they seem fine,
Yeah, they seem good
seem-
Yeah.
and
they
everything.
seem good and like you know they look like they kind of got it all together.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of just hearing from you, it really just, I mean it's a very vulnerable place. So what did burnout
Look
at that
like.
time feel like, if you don't mind me sharing?
Yeah, and
Like,
plus you had lockdown
yes,
as well.
lockdown like
And
double.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe did you had Isla, which is your
Yeah,
first
yes,
one at
yes.
the time, right?
So it was a
And-
lot of things,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because my wife and I were new parents at the time. So we were adjusting to this just new way of life of just being parents to begin with.
Yeah.
And then having a lockdown in the mix. And at the time we had no vaccinations and there was very little information as well.
yeah.
We didn't really know what we were dealing with. So
Yeah,
there were so
exactly,
many
yeah.
uncertainties.
Yeah.
And then obviously the work piled up because we were losing, clients were pulling out
Yes,
because
yes,
obviously
yes.
they had to
Yep.
Yep.
budgets and things.
look
like
at
that.
their balance sheets. So there was all of that. What did that look like? I think for me, the thing that differentiated, where I realized with it, I think this is beyond just stress,
Right.
is I started to realize that I was becoming very, very cynical.
Okay.
So that was like the first thing, and I'm generally quite a positive.
Right,
I'm
right,
like
yeah,
quite
yeah,
an
yeah.
idealist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I started to realize, oh, wait, but actually now every time we're having a conversation about a potential like idea or new direction we can take, I realized that hey, I've become now the first person to doubt or
okay.
to like question that thing.
Wow.
So there was the first thing was like cynicism. There was like a bit of a mindset shift, and then the other thing was almost this weird feeling of. It's like almost like a feeling of indifference, or like some
Okay.
people might say like numbness.
Yeah.
Right.
Like some things just kind of don't really excite me,
Right.
or like
Right.
yeah. So there's a bit of that, and then the third thing, and that was probably the point where I realized maybe I need to actually speak to someone about this.
Right.
Is when I kind of lost the ability to do relatively simple things, which in the past would be like no-brainer stuff.
Right.
Right.
And suddenly I found like I was prone to a lot of like mental blanks.
Okay.
And I'd be like, why am I struggling to
Right.
like either articulate this thought, or why am I struggling to put this like really simple PowerPoint slide together?
Okay.
Right.
Something that used to take minutes. Why is it taking me like an hour to do?
Right.
So it started to cloud my judgment,
Right.
and I think that was when I realized, okay, this I think is beyond stress,
Yep.
and maybe I should go and check it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Burnout is real.
Burnout is
I
real.
mean, but like hearing all this,
Yeah.
I think probably all of us have experienced it to some degree.
Yeah, to some degree.
Probably yours is probably you kind of felt it because it's just the whole combination of everything all kind of together.
Yeah.
I think these kind of things are just very real.
Yeah.
And how long before you kind of discovered like, oh, I'm burnt? Like, was you kind of like immediately just like, oh, realize you're burnt? Or
No, I wish I did, but
is it like a 2 weeks thing? Like,
I like because I always had this
Yeah,
default
yeah.
of like, burnout's not a real
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So I like
Doesn't
brushed it-
exist.
I brushed it aside
Yeah,
for
yeah.
quite a long time, probably about like 4 months.
Wow, 4
Wow.
months.
4 months of operating like that.
Right.
Right.
Until one day I was just like, I think I need to do something about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That-
And I think it helped that I was, my wife has always been my like voice of reason, and she just tells it to me as it is.
Yeah.
And I remember she just like called me out on it to say
Right.
one day like, hey Leon, I think like you're not really functioning properly.
Right.
You might want to chat to me or chat to someone about what it is that's going on
Right.
with you, because like this is not like you.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks so much for sharing that,
Thanks,
man.
man.
And yeah, I think for me, what I gather from listening to you, and also obviously we had Kason last episode, is I think
Great
like,
episode, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks.
But I think I feel like the common underlying thing that I'm starting to realize is perspective.
Right.
And I think I
Yeah.
also said it back in last episode is that like same as well. Like I feel like by hearing what your story and your examples, there's this form of element of perspective that you just have, and not just have, but like by inheriting, but just by taking a step back and just seeing things from a different perspective, like from hearing like you have and Andrea to help you, but also just like clocking things that you have and also your experience. I think that's just really inspiring to hear that actually all great leaders have great perspective, and one of the traits for that is perspective and seeing things from a different lens and having the confidence to actually step back and actually, like question things and think of it from a very rational standpoint, which I think is like, in a sense, is very transferable to audio as well, because I feel like sometimes we can think about and approach mixing and running team and setting things up and so on and so forth in a very systematical way, because this has worked for us in the past. When sometimes we need change, or when someone's not happy and whatever, we get a bit very frustrated.
And
And also knowing that we know all and you know nothing.
we know all.
You heard it on the Bobby Choo podcast, guys.
So don't come to Caleb when he's mixing. That's what he thinks about you. What do you know?
No, I mean, it's kind of like, I've realized also, like, sometimes I also have to catch myself in that sense, because at the end of the day, like, we'll think like, oh, actually, what do you know? Like, you're telling me all this feedback, but at the end of the day, you don't even know what is going on. You don't even know the extent of the problem we might be facing, and we might have this like fake harmonious where obviously people say, oh, they don't want to be on stage, but other people say like, hey bro, we're just at the back, we don't like the limelight, and that kind of thing, which is also actually like, I feel like sometimes it's stemmed from a point of actually just not being appreciated, or like this kind of thing, like not being communicated very well from the team, and making us feel like we're marginalized, even though we have to like do a lot of stuff. So so I feel like perspective, even like like even if you're serving on team, even you're a volunteer, you're a leader, mixing, know what you're doing, don't know what you're doing, I think perspective is like so key, I feel. And like I think that's what I've like gathered from listening to your experience, and just
and having this just this self-awareness also as well. Probably that's just something you've also developed. This is self-awareness, just to be like, oh, I know how to take a step back, or at least you've built this kind of like structure around your life where there are people who can tell you that you're kind of out of it, even if you don't know, like, you're kind of out of it, which I think really, really helps, especially when we're doing like ministry. Because sometimes I always feel like ministry is kind of like war zone time. It's like you go in the morning, it's like soundtrack straight, and everybody's like asking for a ton of things, and the band's playing, you're playing. It's like this. It's literally like a war zone. It's literally like a war zone, and there's no time to like kind of like reflect or think. But
it's
kind of
so
like
true.
having the community around you to like, hey, like, stop it.
hey man,
What's wrong?
chill out.
Chill out.
Do you need
chill
a coffee?
Which time is like,
Stop chewing, man.
stop chewing my cable.
At some point, we'll probably have to give some context as to what's this chewing thing we keep talking about.
Okay. Well, basically, to share about content, why we kind of so give you context. So at HTBB, we have sort of. I was just sharing this with Johnston, and he like had shivers tears, and like, put it this way, so
Shivers tears.
so he was like shivering and tearing up for me. And also,
I could feel,
like
cosmically, I can feel Caleb's stress. I can feel the stress of it.
So to kind of just put it in context, a couple of weeks ago, so we're to give some context, so at HTBB, we're in the midst of going live for first time going live stream. So for the past, we are one of the few churches that we have like not straight into that live stream thing. But I think earlier this year, as a collective, we decided, this is the way to move forward for like reasons such as like reach, and then also like just the workload and resources, trying to best allocate resources accordingly. So we decided to make a decision where we're going to go live stream. So we had all the support from teams and everything, and then so we were executing as how we would. And then as we were doing service one on maybe like, I'd say, was it like 4 weeks ago, a month ago or something, like 5-6 weeks ago, it was just like a very normal Sunday, and then we encountered this.
It's always a normal Sunday.
It's always a normal Sunday where we were just this happened in the front of house where we're just doing soundcheck, and then there would just be a cut, like 5 second just drop out. And what's scary is that normally for audio, when you see there's an issue, there will be an alert. Like, there'll be like, oh, error here, error there, blah, blah, blah. You can trace it.
Yeah.
But this is just like, just cuts. Like, no warning. And scary part is that on our desk, everything seems normal. But, like, audibly, nope, not at all. So, we thought maybe it could be a glitch. Maybe, sometimes on and off, fine. So we on and off the system. Okay, everything went okay. And then it happened during service, during worship time. And again, it was a bit weird because it happened very coordinatedly, where at the time it was happening at like a super loud session.
Were you
after
there
a
this
bridge.
service?
Yeah.
okay.
So it happened at like a super loud bridge, like going to a chorus, and then it would just cut. So it almost seemed like a one drop. For those people who don't know, one drop is like you stop on the one where it's just like the voice singing, and then it comes back in on time. And because at the time, bands in ears was everything fine. So the band didn't even know that was going on. They're just playing as per normal. But from the front, it felt like a very coordinated mistake. And then it kept happening for service. So we're like, what's going on? And then what was scary is that in the sense that FOH, which is front of house, had that problem. But broadcast had no problem. But broadcast had like a different set of problem where it would cut out different times.
Different time, yeah.
That wasn't correlated. So we're looking at like two different problems-ish, maybe? And
Shivers.
yeah, man, it's just like scary. And so then, okay, fine, we tried to diagnose. And then next week, we like stress test our system, use the loudest thing, ran it through like 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. No issue. Then Sunday came again. And like, more issues happening. Like now drop-offs are more evident. We're like, what is going on? And then, so then we called contracting. They kind of looked at it. We had like a few really trusted contractors in the scene, kind of had a look at our system. And then like, no issue, blah, blah, no issue. And then just happened we had a conference coming up. So we're like, okay, all right. And then so we actually like did our test. We like really tested everything. And we're like, okay, even contest like, yeah, no issue. So we're like, okay, Tress, no issue. Led to the team, no issue. Cool. Yeah. So we're like, cool, man, conference start, let's go. And then sound check happened. And then that happened. We're like, oh no. And then so we called, and then we thought at first it was like a limiting thing because it always happened at the loudest point of the song. So okay, maybe mixing too hard or like cranking levels too much.
Stephen.
Stephen lah, huh? Stephen. But anyway, so we readjusted sound check. We brought levels all down, making sure, and so sound check, everything cool, fine, cool, alright. Okay, rectify problem, fix it. Worship team was cool, everything was cool, everything cool. First song starts. Pad started. Oh, like first, like it was within like the first 30 seconds, and there was no drums, no vocals, no nothing. Pads just started, and Pads is like normally the quietest, and then it just dropped. And then Steven and I just looked at it, just like, what just happened? And then this was we always joke about like when things problem, some guy ducks their head so that actually you don't see anybody. This was literally us like. We literally ducked our head. We're like, what is going on? And then it literally happened on every section of the song. Like, intro, drop, verse, drop, chorus, drop. And at this time, it was just vocals and
so where were you at this time?
The conference one, I wasn't there. I wasn't at that one. I was at all the previous normal service ones and it happened, but I missed it, didn't see it at the conference.
But that was like the worst when it happened because then it started affecting in-ears as well.
Right.
Basically, it was like a whole chaotic problem where, and then I remember Steven and I, we thought it was a PA issue. We thought it was whatever. And just like clearing, and so we like, at that time, conference was going on, we like rang like people like, hey, SOS, we need a new PA. And I was like, who gives you a PA in like the next day of conference? So then we called some guys that were really helpful to help us. So reinstall a new PA. Steven and I like,
you guys slept there.
We basically slept like 2 hours. So like we like did the whole thing, blah blah blah. Okay, like at least we had 2 hours sleep, but at least problem solved. Soundcheck happened. Steven and I just like we're like half away, like, hey man, like how are you doing? He's like, I don't know lah. Never mind. So then it kept dropping. Like thankfully worship just like dropped once or twice, nothing really much happened. And then we were just like so frustrated at this point. And I would say the desk and our system was the most prayed for because it was during ministry time and it was an extended ministry time as well. Just so coincidentally. And we had like the whole stage where like a lot of like big name CEOs and speakers were coming and speaking. Like we had like parliament people and everything. So we're like, it look really bad on HTBB if like suddenly
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when you speak, it's like mate, like it's so distracting
yeah.
and like so we're like just like we're just like on the edge, but we're so tired, never slept.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like, guys, like what's going on? So I feel like that was my burnt out. I think I was
Right.
I think I was burnt out to ashes, both of us. We're like my muscles are just like
It's like cooked.
cooked, man, like burnt. so during ministry, we're like, Lord, if there's one time
Sometimes we gotta come true.
come true for us, please just don't drop. And thankfully, nothing happened. So and then obviously PA was like not the issue. So then we disconnected a few cables, and obviously that worked out fine. So we did diagnostics yesterday.
Right.
We found out that 60% of our networking cable is not working. Hence,
Right.
it's like a compounding issue because we run primary and secondary, which runs concurrently at the same time. So
Yes.
when secondary drops, obviously the primary is like, hey, what's going on? Because like there's no
they're, like,
support.
freaking out.
So hence it's like the drop out to reload, drop out, reload, drop out, reload. And so yeah, so that was sort of, and then so why we say it's streaming, because we always think that maybe, because the cables are so embedded within the infrastructure of the thing, so we thought we will know whether it's a cable
Kill problem.
problem.
It's-
Who
it's
termites, it's always chewing,
It's not termites.
like
it's the
either
devil.
termites,
Always the
rats,
devil.
Yeah,
or
so we were
the
saying it's
devil.
rats, termites, and then Johnson's like, no, maybe it's the devil
It's
that's
the
chewing our
devil
cables.
chewing on the cables for sure.
Yeah, man.
Devil's
so,
got nothing better to do, you know, than
Just
chew
chewing.
cables.
I know, and just so happens our podcast has chewing on it, so it's like
Not too late for a rebrand.
Yeah.
Bobby Chew.
Bobby Chew. Then I send Caleb into like get like night sweats, like
But yeah, but in all to say, even though it sounds like a really it was a very stressful problem.
Mhm.
But I think what I would be a testament to, at HTBB is that none of the management, like pastors, Leon, Min, who was my line manager, even our creative pastor,
Right,
when Wendy, who Leon co-leads with, or anybody who had massive authority and had all the right to throw a fit and call us out and be like, sound guys, you guys are fired, we need somebody else and blah 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 or whatever, that had all the rights to do that.
Yeah.
But everybody just came to be like, hey, are you okay? Like,
Like,
do we help?
yeah,
Like, hey man,
yeah.
it's okay, don't worry. Like, service still went on. And they're all like very, very supportive, even able to a point went out to the front saying, hey guys, stressful situation going on there, let's just give them a hand. Like, just
Yep.
support and like
Right.
mitigate the situation, which I felt for once actually like shown actually like we're all united. When one falls, is we all fall together.
Yeah.
We're all
Right,
there.
right.
And it's
And
like
it's
we
like,
joke about this whole thing of like the devil chewing on our stuff, right? But actually, like on a serious note, it's quite apt because
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we do in the
Yeah.
church context,
Yeah.
you know, there is a spiritual element
Yes.
to it,
Yeah.
and I think to the point on like the importance of unity in problem solving things
Yeah.
together. That's
Yeah.
also a really helpful thing to remember, right? That there's a spiritual battle going
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
Yeah.
and I think it would be obviously if you know, the enemy or the devil, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
were to give a very obvious way of trying to put a stop to something, we would have the awareness to say, okay, we're not gonna do that. You know, we're smarter than that.
Yeah.
But then the easiest way, because of that,
Yeah.
that usually you find that the easiest way for you know, opposing spirits to disrupt what we're doing
Right,
is
right.
not by stopping the thing, but actually by getting us to fight
Right,
each other
yeah, yeah, yeah.
internally. So
Yeah.
usually, if you look at like any big project,
Yeah.
big campaign or
Yeah.
big service that we've done,
Yeah.
you can always see that every time we're about to start something, the first thing that's most at risk of breaking apart is usually the unity within the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Because that's like the easiest way
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
disrupt things. That okay, I can't like stop them from gathering, but
Yeah.
make them disagree with one another.
Right,
you
right,
know?
right.
So I think
Yeah.
knowing that and always having that at the top of mind when we're having, you know, when something goes wrong,
yeah.
Yeah.
that kind of helps us to kind of regulate maybe our
Yeah.
reactions to one another.
So
Yeah, which is true.
when all these
Yeah.
things were happening, like what was your reaction as like a leader? Would you like?
I would say no one wanted to look at the back of the production booth. Everyone just like ice front.
So there you look. He might stab you.
I mean, to me, like, okay, obviously, if there's a problem
Mm-hmm.
and it's very clearly matter of human error,
Yes.
and it's a very clear. There's a very
Okay.
clear solution, and we already know exactly what the problem is.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the default would be like, let's just sort it out,
Yeah.
you know, and let's try to sort it out quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
But obviously, in a case like this, where you know it's stuff that is beyond your
Yes.
control, it's also something that we're not going to have an answer for now as well,
Immediate.
because it will
Yes.
require external help. Then it's probably, yeah, you, of course you acknowledge it, and then, you know, in these kinds of instances, then I would just message Caleb separately. I won't make a big deal
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
it, but
yeah,
just
yeah.
message him separately. Hey, I'm sure you caught that just now.
Yeah.
Do you? And then I'll let him say, do you know what went on? Rather than, I think this is, you
Right,
should
right,
do
right,
this.
right, right.
What's going on? Then he'll tell me, I'm actually not too sure, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's never happened before.
Right. But that's also purely because of your relationship with one another
Yeah,
as well, right?
that helps too.
That's true. That
Wait,
helps
how
a
long
lot.
have you guys actually known each other? Like,
I know Leon since 2014.
Since you were a kid.
he's not wrong. He's not wrong though. He's not wrong.
Actually,
though.
I knew Leon since the
24.
start of HTBB.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, I remember we used
So HTBB was 10,
this
This
Sunday.
weekend?
So if you want to come,
and
So basically 10 years.
10
We've
years.
known
10
each
years.
other
Oh,
for
wow.
that is
Okay.
actually quite
Wow.
insane to think
Oh, that's
about.
insane.
10 years is a long
10 years.
time.
mate. Wow, didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
10
Interesting.
years.
Oh,
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah, I knew Leon for 10 years. Yeah, I remember we used to surf on team together. He would play guitar at the time.
Yeah.
I think he was still painting
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
I
Right.
remember. And yeah, and
So
yeah.
question just for the
Yo,
both of you.
okay.
How do you both are you both very different people 10 years ago, or you both kind of like just the same people but just?
I want to say Leon looks very different 10 years ago.
Oh really?
I feel very different as well.
I've decreased in size.
you know. First time I remember I met Leon for the Alpha conference.
yeah,
yeah,
here.
yeah, it was here.
Mate,
Then I
bro.
remember Leon's ripped.
Mate, he made an electric guitar look like a ukulele, bro.
It was
like,
like
yo!
Leon's like ripped. I'm like, ooh,
Ooh, this guy, man.
this guy's buff.
Yeah, and I remember as well. Yeah, I think I don't know. I had like a, I don't know. I felt Leon always was like this very cool guy, but very down to earth. My first impression of Leon
Okay.
is that he is very cool,
Mm?
but he's very down to earth. So like you could just have a chat with him, and he will
Right.
like treat you like a cool friend, stuff like that. So yeah,
Right.
but yeah.
What's
Yeah.
your impression of Caleb?
Caleb, I just remember being so surprised by how old, or rather how young he was at the time. Because I remember, so first time meeting him was serving on team together. And then I remember just asking him, I was like, oh, so, I was like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm still at school. I was like, oh, you mean like uni? He's like, no, I'm still in school. I was like, oh, wow. Like, man, they play drums really well now at that age.
They're doing something different in schools nowadays, you know.
But I think, I mean, we didn't have that much interface with
Right.
Caleb,
No,
to be honest,
I
in that
didn't.
early stage.
Yeah.
I think I only really started to spend a bit more time with him when I came on staff here
Yeah, yeah.
at HTBB, because there was also a long period where you then
Yes.
eventually went to uni.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we also weren't serving much
Yeah, I
on team
remember. Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But one of my initial impressions was that actually Caleb's quite similar to me
Okay.
in quite a few ways. We both have affinity for Coke, like not
Yes.
that Coke. But
well,
gotta say that. You just gotta put that disclaimer for Coca-Cola
Yes, Coca-Cola.
with a little bit of salt in it. I don't know if you
Oh,
have,
wow,
have you ever
you
tried
know.
that?
Mate,
We call it
changed
a
your life,
ham Coke.
Coke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ham Coke.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I mean, like little things like that, lah.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, like kind of we've got
Same thing.
there are obviously differences,
Right, right.
Yeah.
but I think there are some like underlying similar
Yeah.
values.
Ham Coke is a very
Ham Coke. United by a
United
salty
front,
Coke.
yeah.
Yeah,
front.
yeah. And plus, we also had, when Leon first joined, he was also comms. He was heading
Yep,
in the
yep.
comm thing. So I remember at the time we were also had a lot of interaction because he was trying. We were trying to work together. I felt I needed support on TikTok. I was like, I had this revolutionary
Oh, yes,
idea.
yes.
Again, it's probably not very revolutionary now, but I had this idea of like we should start a TikTok account for HTBB
That was
Church
fun.
during lockdown.
Yeah, I
So,
remember.
I like made like very funny videos and whatever. Just like,
I remember.
it was just like, you know what,
Those
I had a lot of
TikToks.
time, whatever. And then Leon was like, hey man, I think this idea might fly. And like, so we would have like Thursdays check in on like, okay, how do we like figure this
Yeah.
thing out? And
Right,
a lot of time was just us chatting like, hey man, how are you? Blah blah
Yeah.
blah whatever. And then we'll eventually land on an
Right,
idea.
right,
So
right,
I think that was our interaction a lot of the time. And also at that time, Leon also first joined team, and it was I think he joined during lockdown,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we were together, and then obviously we're not together again. Then it was this whole back and forth thing.
Right.
So it was like quite nice to get Leon embedded into the team as well. So, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
10 years.
yeah.
10
Yes,
years.
10
But I
years
think
sounds
that
like
relational
great.
capital definitely helps. lah.
Right.
Because actually, when you also have a high level of trust with one
Yeah,
another,
yeah.
then you don't always also have to be so like skirting around
Right, right,
issues.
like-
Sometimes we can also just like say it, as it is, like, hey, that like didn't sound so
Yeah,
great,
like,
like just
bro.
now,
Yeah,
or like he will
yeah,
also
yeah.
tell me, hey,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not, and I like then we don't take it personally, like
Yeah.
we can like laugh it off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I think it's like really like I feel like that helped our relationship because like I
Right.
can see that you have the best of my interest and you want to tell me actually, hey man, this is.
And vice versa.
And like Leon say, hey man, this is shit.
This
by the way, I've never said that. I just want to make it clear.
disclaimer.
I have
Leon has never
used-
said that.
I've never. I use that word definitely, but I've never used it in a context of giving you
Disclaimer.
feedback. Okay.
Okay, others, it's gonna be like a
Don't
like
simply,
a very
simply
like a
stumble
long
me.
a long email like
Hey man.
Leon using inappropriate languages.
It was nice
no,
working
yeah,
with
it's
you,
true,
Caleb.
This is the last time Leon is heading the team at HTBB.
No, yeah. No, obviously not during work time.
Not during work time lah. Off of work time lah. But I can definitely see like
Yeah.
I mean the closest between you guys as
Yeah.
well, and I think that really translates into
Yeah.
kind of like how
Yeah.
you guys do work with
Yeah.
one another.
Yeah.
It just makes things a lot more, just easier,
Yeah.
a lot smoother, and it like what you said, you don't really have to like beat around the bush for a lot of stuff.
No.
You can just like, hey, bro, it's like why,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
why like
Like,
this?
why?
You know?
Why like this?
Well, like this, but which is really nice to see. Like I guess these kind of like deeper relationships
Yeah.
form in teams as well, where sometimes it can be like this kind of very surface. I mean, sometimes with like the teams that we all lead,
Yeah.
sometimes you only see them like once a week.
Yeah.
Or like,
True.
or sometimes even like those who don't really come, like once a month or something like that. So like, I guess maybe my question would be like, how do you build this type of meaningful relationships
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
especially volunteers
That's-
who
Yes.
Such a good
they
question.
come in and out, sometimes
Yeah.
don't come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
No, I mean,
whatever
like, to be
reasons.
very real with you, it's just such a good question because it really speaks into, I think, what we're trying to really think about a bit more intentionally now.
Yeah.
I think we have been so used to operating as a small church, but obviously as the congregation grows, as the teams grow as well, we actually started to notice that across certain teams, I won't speak for other teams, but maybe I'll speak for our like social media team, and then perhaps this also translates to worship
Yep.
and production too. Kind of an increasing sense of disengagement. And then we started to think, okay, how can we do this? Okay, maybe we should put in place like big scale kind of gatherings, like creative nights to celebrate
Yeah.
people, which is great. But I think when you do that, obviously the bar is set quite high because it's quite a big thing to organize. So naturally, what happens is like when we do those gatherings, it's like really fantastic to gather everyone together. But because it's a larger effort, we can't do it as frequently.
Got you.
So
Okay,
then what
yeah,
we've
yeah,
been like
for
kind
sure.
of
Makes
rethinking, as Wendy and I were planning for next year, and when we started implementing it this year as well, is how do we increase the frequency, lower the bar for gathering, but
Okay.
increase the frequency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I started to realize, we started doing this in the social media team,
Right.
of saying like, okay, why don't we just do something as simple as, after a service, let's just go, like whoever was the team that was serving that day, let's just go for lunch.
Yeah.
Just go for a meal. And we don't have to do, there doesn't need to be
Yeah,
a
yeah,
program,
yeah.
just go for a
Yeah.
simple meal.
Right.
And then like we realized that, well, even that like really small touch point, like people really appreciated that.
Right,
and then
right,
you start to learn things about like maybe some of the newer members of the team
Right,
that you
right,
never realized before.
Yeah.
So I think really the key is building that, building frequent touch points for doing community lah. And there's actually I don't think there's ever any touch point that's too small. I think something very practical that Miles, our vicar, once said is that sometimes all I do is like it can be as simple as if you're like scrolling on IG,
Right.
you see something, and like Miles does this quite a lot, right? You like
yeah,
receive
yeah.
the Miles
Miles
DM, just like sometimes
times.
something as simple as just
Right.
forwarding something to someone that I think like Caleb might find this funny and send to them.
Sending memes.
Memes,
Those like
man,
little
wait.
things go quite a long way.
We have
you know?
so many memes like around, man. Like I feel like that's our
Right.
that's how we talk sometimes. We just talk through memes.
Yeah.
True, just-
So like the line he's been using is like, I think in this season we've got to make a big church feel small.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Right,
that's
right.
I think that's I'm so glad you asked that. Like that's what we're trying to do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we just do more
Yeah.
kind of like small informal things?
right. Because people, I guess, can get very, very lost.
Yes.
Especially with
Yeah.
the church
especially
is growing bigger, which is great,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Yeah.
believe in Jesus, you
Of
know,
course.
great. But like, I guess it can people can get kind of lost
Yeah.
a little bit in the
Yeah.
whole bigness of and the scale of
Yes.
it.
Correct.
It can be quite daunting.
daunting,
Yeah.
and sometimes can be like if you're new to faith, and
Yeah,
you're,
yeah,
like, you're
yeah.
not really sure, and then
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
it can be
yeah,
quite
yeah.
intimidating.
Correct.
But,
I mean, you guys have been. I guess you guys have been in church for like a long time,
yes,
so a lot of things make sense. But like
Mm,
maybe for a
for
lot of
other
people who
people,
are newer
yeah.
to faith, they kind of be like, oh, I don't really get
thing, yeah,
what's this all
Yeah.
about.
yeah.
Yeah. But I like the idea of just having more like touch points. Like you don't need to have this really big grand kind of like, oh, we gotta like have like,
Yeah.
a big team night. We gotta like do like, you know, like 2 hours of worship, you know. But like
Yeah.
just having these like smaller touch points here and there. They don't need to be so elaborate.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
having these smaller touch points that really really helps people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So
Yeah.
yeah. Mate,
Nice.
nice.
Very
Well,
nice.
Thanks so much, Leon, for like
Thank you so
sharing,
much.
sharing
Hey, no,
your
happy
kind of
to.
thoughts. And we on the podcast, also just a very statement that I like to throw out there is Leon has a very good fashion sense,
Yes.
put it that
Oh,
way.
that's true.
right?
That's true.
Everyone who
That's
have
very
seen
kind.
Leon
Yes.
is very. He knows that, yeah, man.
Yes.
Leon can pull off
Leon dresses
literally anything. You could literally put on
That's very
a
kind.
trash bag on Leon, and
He'll make it
fine.
work.
He will make it work. But so like, I think episode 2, you asked me about what my version of production fit is. But I
Yeah.
think actually I don't think I'm a very good fashionista to
Okay, to answer that.
answer
question.
that.
Okay.
I would like to direct that question over to
Yes.
Leon as we segue into our kind of like updates, news,
Yeah.
whatever that's going on in the world. And
Mhm.
what is your
Production fit.
production fit?
Production fit.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your advice to sound guys,
Yeah.
cameraman? You run a social media team. You run around
Yeah.
I think production has a very bad rep for dressing
for
terribly.
dressing bad. Yeah. It's either we're always wearing too tight,
Yeah.
or just
Or everything you're saying.
or just like
Everything
cannot lah.
slips up.
So yeah, what's your production fit
Yeah.
advice?
I think like this is probably the same as what everyone else would say, but I think just like wearing black. I wouldn't just say that as a production fit
Right.
thing, but just generally as a
Right.
style thing. I think black is a very safe thing to go with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, wearing like all black just generally makes you look a little bit more sophisticated, right?
Then you wear like purple.
Yeah. So I think.
hey.
So that's not what I mean.
So, but it's interesting because like I used to wear a lot of all black,
Right.
Yeah.
but then our lighting setup in HTBB and the fact that we have a black backdrop
Yeah, I know.
means
Ah.
that if I were to wear a lot of black,
Yeah.
then I will usually get a text from Charmaine,
Who is
our
the production
production
lead.
lead,
Yes. Yep.
by saying, Leon, you might need to maybe put something else on top. And I'd be like, why? Because your head is floating.
Yeah. Oh,
You just see my head.
it's
It's true. When you look at the
Yeah.
monitor, you can't see like my shoulders. It's just like a floating head. So I think generally, I think my general go-to for just general style is
Yep.
like black. When in doubt, just wear black.
When in doubt,
Black,
wear black.
Yeah, but I feel like production people do wear black, but somehow it's just not working.
Not working
It's
like
not
how?
working.
Yeah, it's not working.
So
right?
you're trying to.
What do you mean it's not
What
working?
do you mean it's not working? Are we gonna pivot?
Go on,
Yeah,
Caleb.
go
Oh no, I don't know whether like
You want to name some names as well while we're at it?
Are you saying? I trying to say something.
No, I would say from my own experience, where sometimes when I look at my production fit, I'm like, this is not what I would wear outside. Like I just don't look very presentable. I look a bit scruffy, like things doesn't fit around.
So what's
here
your
and there.
desire? What's your desire?
Well, it's just to look like presentable, right? Because you want to also look smart when like people come in. You also
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
time like so like one of the things that Steven and I always joke around during conferences is always on the sound desk. We want to put a sign on the sound desk is that we don't know the Wi-Fi password. We don't know where the toilet is. We cannot adjust the temperature of the hall. We don't know where your lost and found items is. We don't know where the car park validation is. We don't.
Although you know all the answers
Although
to
we know
that.
but, or like we don't know where your friend is. But like we are not the genius info bar, but I mean that if we joke about that, but in the sense of sometimes we also have to do some form of welcoming.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Because
yeah,
we're,
yeah.
we're at the back, right?
I think you're like right in the front, like the entrance is like sound.
Correct.
And so so but then so sometimes like we also have to within our right to look also presentable.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't
That's a
want
good
to
point.
come across
Yeah,
as
yeah.
like sloppy or like
Shabby.
those kind of things which doesn't like bode well as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
So like sometimes in that sense of like trying to look also presentable but functional, sometimes I feel like I'm not very
Right.
presentable. Put it that way.
Okay.
So name drop myself.
Name drop yourself. So
So yeah, what tips do you have for production people who also
yeah,
have need to look presentable but also need to go
Yeah.
down the trenches of the black hole of
like
cabling?
Yeah.
and
Well, I've
everything?
just discovered. I've just discovered that Uniqlo has a whole new range now, where they essentially copy Lululemon.
Oh,
So you get this
oh.
like very comfortable but very kind of presentable looking stuff.
Okay.
It's all like it's like
Right,
Lululemon.
right.
It's like all
Wow.
like sport kind of
Yeah, yeah,
material,
yeah.
sporty
Okay.
material, but like
Okay.
get like a nice, like polo shirt type
Okay,
of thing.
okay.
Even like the trousers that are very much like the ABC pants, which
Yep.
you've talked about. I think it was like your first episode, right?
Second episode, which
second
we still have
episode.
to have
Yeah.
Johnson to try.
Yeah, I've yet to try them.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you can get the cheaper
Yeah.
option now at Uniqlo.
All right.
So maybe Uniqlo might want to sponsor this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes,
you know.
in future.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. It just says 3 pants.
So that's just 3 pants. That's all.
No, actually 4 because we Game of Impossible has 2 people. Is
Yes.
Leon and his dad, so maybe
Yeah.
4. Yeah, 4.
All of us have 1 pants. Oh no, just send us 1 pants and we just share. You know, like the sisterhood of traveling pants. You just wear the pants. And, they fit.
Oh no.
Okay, that's okay. Then
Yeah. So you're
this is
still
the
like
new line.
comfortable, and like to your point, still
Yeah.
presentable
Presentable.
as well.
Got you. Cool. I think we'll take that to heart.
Yeah, I think I
Well,
definitely.
I will take that to
I'll
heart.
definitely take that to heart.
Yeah.
I'm running out of like things to wear.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Same. But yeah, so like Leon, what? So in the news world of audio, I think right now.
I don't know how much I can contribute.
It's okay. Wait. I'll. So actually, news audio right now, there's actually not much going on in the world of things. But there is something that we can all relate to. Is Apple.
I had
Apple.
a feeling you
Yeah.
would go there.
Yeah,
Okay.
Apple, right?
Yep. Apple.
And so obviously, if nobody knows what's going on out there, Apple just launched new phones.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
iPhone 16,
Yep.
and then obviously with that comes like AI.
Slew of.
But I think what's funny is that they were saying that the phone about AI is actually they don't ship with AI on it.
Oh, really?
So they subscribe to AI?
So the phone that you can buy off the store, I think as of today, comes with iOS, the old version of iOS.
Okay.
So it has
Okay.
the old Siri, none of the AI. whole
Right,
thing.
right.
But anyway, that's Apple being Apple. But what's more like what we can more all relate to is more AirPods. So obviously AirPods, they launched new AirPods, AirPods 4.
What's for?
But then also there's AirPods 4 with noise cancelling,
Oh.
active noise cancelling.
Okay.
Then there's AirPods Pro 2, which is the earbuds with the buds thing,
Yeah.
where that has more like audio tests. And actually the FDA approved it, so if you buy a new AirPods 2, you can actually use that as a reliable source for testing how your ears function.
Oh.
And they also have loads
Didn't know
like
that.
features of like
Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, which actually for us have very helpful. So they also like give you timing whether when your ears need to rest, if you're listening things too loud, and things like that. And then also AirPods Max, which is basically all they did was just add USB-C and new colors, which is a bit like, hey man, like what's going
Yeah.
on there? But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's the line of like headphones. Now I think, do we all own AirPods here?
Yes.
Do you guys?
Yes.
Yes, I own AirPods as well. Now the main question is, what AirPods do you use?
I use the AirPods Pro. I
Okay.
believe it's
I
the
think
Pro 2.
Yeah,
Right.
Pro 2.
I just
same.
changed because
Okay.
I was using the first one.
Okay.
Right.
For the longest time, and then I just changed recently to the 2, like maybe 2 weeks ago, because one side it just like stopped charging,
okay.
and I couldn't do
Right.
anything about
Oh,
it.
Man.
Right.
Man. So I don't know about you, but I can never use AirPods, the normal one without
Right.
seal, because I'm one of the. I saw a YouTube video the other day. There's 2 categories of people. One category of people who can fit AirPods,
Yeah.
and the other category of people just cannot fit, and I cannot fit. my right side, when I just do that,
She just comes off.
Slippery ear syndrome.
is that
That's not a
actually
real thing. No. Let's make it a thing
SES.
on the Bobby Choo podcast.
Guys, we want to have this moment to talk about SES. So it's a real problem. I hope you donate to Caleb Choo.
SES.
We're gonna put a bank account down below if you feel.
No, but I think what it says, right? Because do you like? Well, I think that's a update. I feel like Apple is also because would you I don't know. I'm just sharing my opinion, but I feel like AirPods, it's the most run of the mill, down the line middle ground of what everybody listens to. If you ask an audio sound engineer,
Yep.
it's not pristine audio. Like it's not like your Genelec, whatever,
Genelec
whatever. Speakers, or not even like the most expensive,
Yep,
like
yep.
headphones that has EQ,
Yeah,
blah blah
yeah.
blah. But then also you wouldn't say on the other end for the spectrum, like it's like your Philips RM1, RM2 if you buy from Mr. DIY kind of headphones, and they're all in the middle. Also, their pricely is not like heading to your Bose, Sony, Sonos, that kind of
Yeah,
region. But it's also not heading towards like the whole other end of like lower end budget, like those like you have a bit of money but don't have that much of budget, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're always right in the middle. But do you think like as an audio that sort of categorizes as a sound of how we all listen to music now? You can have like the best mixes in the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like we could make this podcast like spatial audio.
Yeah, we could.
But at the end of the day, you're still gonna listen to it to your AirPods, which is like compressed, has an EQ band, is colored. It's
Yeah.
like then,
Yep.
yeah. Do you like feel that as well?
Yeah.
I generally like the sound of it,
Right?
which is a lot of people like, I
Yeah.
thought you're an audio guy. Which like most of the people like, if you know you're audio
Yeah.
guy, audiophile, they'll think like, you like the more like high end stuff or my pretty. But
Yeah.
I quite like just the
Yeah.
simplicity of it. I've had other like Bluetooth earbuds, and the problem with it, which is that I'm an iPhone user, so I think we're all iPhone users.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's just the way it syncs so fast, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
and it just connects straight. Or you open your laptop and it's everything just connects straight, which I appreciate that part
Yeah.
more than the sound quality of it. Because
Yeah.
I think pretty much they all sound pretty good. They all sound like
Yeah.
they're not like whoa, but like they sound pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just like the idea of it. It can connect so
Connectivity.
fast. It's like I don't have to like pair and double click it and hold and click. Then you have to go read the manual, like you have to hold each thing, turn it off,
Yeah.
both at the same time, hold 3 seconds. Yeah,
It never works, yeah.
It never really works. And I mean, at least for me, I appreciate the connectivity more than the audio quality because I think they sound really good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it can go wrong. Even when they changed remember when the Apple earbuds changed from the round ones into like the
Yeah.
conical ones?
Yeah.
The one where the speaker was like
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
end,
On
right?
the-
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like this really funny kind of shape. But I
Yeah.
thought that sounded really great. I have like a pair of those.
Yeah, me
Stay
too.
home,
I
right?
still use them
Yeah,
actually.
I still use them,
Yeah.
especially when
Sometimes
I'm-
I just like having a wired
Yeah,
one.
there's a wired one,
I
just
always
plug
keep
in
one
on
in
the
my
head.
bag.
Yeah, it's really, really convenient. So, I mean, I think they've always done pretty well.
Yeah, but Leon, because you also have dabble into music, you also play guitar, you also sing, you also lead worship, you also know what quality audio
Yeah.
sounds like. What do you think about the AirPods? Like, because if I remember, you have the AirPods Max, you have the AirPods Pro, you also have the wired AirPods. Is it
Earpods, I think
Earpods,
yeah.
AirPods, right? Yeah. So like, how do you fit all these into like your lifestyle? Like,
Yeah.
how does one fit?
Yep. So the wired ones I always use for the gym.
Okay.
Why?
Why?
Isn't it like? in a
No,
way?
so I like using it in the gym because if I'm moving around, sometimes I find like the other AirPods tend to I tend to have your kind of
Right,
slippery ear
SES.
thing. If I'm like
SES,
very
SES.
sweaty, then sometimes
SES.
they fall out. But I also just don't like the faff of worrying about charge and
Okay.
battery.
Right.
Yes, that's
yeah.
a very.
So in the gym, I tend to just have maybe an important caveat is I generally don't always listen to music in the gym.
Right.
Okay.
So it's a kind of good to have
Yeah, yeah.
that's in the bag. And then
Yeah.
if I want to, I don't have to worry about is it charged?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I like
I like to just keep it in the bag.
Right.
So maybe that's actually the primary reason. And then the AirPods Pro, I use that more as just for like day to day.
Yep.
So if I'm like on the MRT,
Mm.
or if I'm if I'm traveling as well, it's quite handy because it's just not much to pack.
Yes.
To be honest, the AirPods Max is in a bit of an awkward position now.
Okay.
Because I initially bought those as the travel travel headphones lah. But the problem with it is it's bulky.
Right. Yeah.
It's bulky and it doesn't pack very elegantly as well. You know, because
Apple could have done something with that, but they chose not
I
to.
wonder what the game is though, because it seems to be intentional, right? I mean, there's so much of their product design. They make kind of weird choices, like a magic mouse and from underneath. I'm sure that there's got to be some sort of it's like some sort of like flex. It's like we do that because we can, and you buy it anyway.
Yeah, I feel like
they're trolling us on purpose.
Struggle.
It's the best flex. Like we're gonna intentionally make things a bit difficult to you.
Apple, man.
You know, so right now, to be honest, I mainly use the AirPods Max. Like if I'm at home.
Okay.
Somewhere and I just I'm comfortable, and I feel like I just want a slightly more, immersive experience. But I don't treat these things as kind of instruments to make my listening experience better.
Right.
I think I treat them as tools to make my life easier.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's where Apple knows where to get
Exactly.
get you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same. It's like it applies across the board. Like even like the Apple Watch. I have an Apple Watch. I don't really. People ask me, "You have an Apple Watch, but then why do you still also have a running watch? Why do you also use like a sleep tracker? Can't you just do that on your Apple Watch?" And like for me, I recognize that there are limitations of
Yes.
So for me, the Apple Watch actually is more of like a productivity tool.
Yes.
And I wear this thing, which is like to just track my overall kind of like health. And then I've got another watch, which is a running one, to track my runs.
Yes.
So I think it helps when you recognize what certain things are good for, what they're not, and then just be okay with that. You know, each thing has its purpose. Has its purpose.
Alright. Well, that's really cool.
So none of us say that the efforts sound great. but I think they're acceptable.
Yeah, I really don't. They're like very average.
Yes, they're great. I think they're just great across the board.
Yeah.
But it's their whole like how they fit their lifestyle,
Exactly.
how they work with everything else that's around you.
Yeah.
If you are like in the Apple environment, I think it's super easy just to get like everything all together.
And I think that goes back to like I was saying that actually it's okay. Like can be very average.
Yeah, it can be very average.
Very average. It's fine. Like
It's
all cool.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, you don't need the best.
Yeah, you don't need best of the best, and they cost more as well. And there's like normally flatter speakers sound terrible.
Yeah.
They sound like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It's just like because obviously they're supposed to be as transparent as possible.
Yes.
So that's not a very good thing. So save money, buy Apple.
Save money, buy Apple.
Which is like kind of like
Yes, I don't think those things go together.
No.
Save money, buy Apple.
No.
You should be their spokesman, lah. Huh? You convince people Apple's a cheap product. Okay, it's
Yeah, I feel even when you said cheap product, I feel like you were like, nah.
Apple's not a cheap product.
Yeah. But anyway, Leon, on this podcast, as we come into a close, we always like to pick on like what is currently inspiring you. So what are you currently inspired by? Can be music, can be anything. Hobbies, family. Your own podcast is fine as well.
I just so love the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
Such a source of inspiration to me.
This should be the intro.
The intro.
Just really right. Put
Yeah.
controversial intro.
I'm the source of inspiration myself.
Yeah.
I think for me, I always believe in trying to find different sources, like lateral sources. Let's say you're trying to be inspired to be a better leader.
Okay.
Obvious thing to do is go read like leadership books, listen to leadership podcasts and stuff. But like I always find that I get more insight actually thinking laterally, like what's something else that would have maybe elements of leadership in it, that I can draw from. So I think what I've been really into the past 2 weeks, I've just been watching like sport documentaries.
Okay.
And it's like, and I'm not watching documentaries of sports I'm interested in.
Okay.
So I know like nothing about F1.
Right.
I've been interested in F1.
Yeah.
Drive to Survive?
I've been watching Drive to Survive. I finished it. And I haven't watched all the early ones. I just watched the current season.
Okay.
And it's absolutely fascinating. And there's so much just general like life lessons that you can pick up from things like that. So I've been like really into that. Then after I finished that, I'm like, wow, if a story is well told, that can get me really interested in something that I have no interested in, I'm gonna try the next one. It's just like golf one. I was like, I hate golf. But like,
Full swing, right?
Yeah, full swing. But I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
watching that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think like I've been inspired by more of like the sporting coach
Right.
Okay.
kind of model of leadership recently, and trying to unpack like what can we also borrow from.
Right.
It's a very different way of
Yes,
of,
yes.
of leading.
Got you.
But I think there are bits in there which have good carryover industry or even workplace context. So that's been inspiring me.
Nice. Are you going for the Singaporean Grand Prix?
Might now.
Right after this.
Dun-dun-dun. Oh, that's cool. That's really interesting. How about you, Johnston? Sorry, just for context, maybe you're not being inspired because you're being busy preparing to become a dad.
Yeah.
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 When is the due date?
It's October 12th.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah, you know it's funny because I texted Caleb and I texted a few other people. I was like, hey, I gotta tell you something. But I just started to do like, do you already give birth? That's the immediate reaction from everybody. I was
That's-
like, no, I did not. I'm just asking you something.
yeah.
But yeah, that seems to be
How
very
exciting.
I guess like I discover there's quite a lot of baby stuff.
Okay.
Buy a lot of just tons of baby stuff. There's just too many. There's everything for everything inside there. I won't say I'm actually inspired by it, but I think that the organizational part of it is like compared to like what our parents probably had with us and like now, there's like just so much stuff like
Wow.
for your kid.
Yeah.
Like you want something, you want to organize something, it's like there's tons of stuff. Yeah. So I'm not inspired. I'm just saying this is a statement, you know.
It's like a revelation.
Yeah, there's others.
Last
Tell
time
you will be very inspired.
Yeah.
Like having a kid,
Yeah.
it really like opens up new ways of thinking.
New ways of
you
thinking.
know, and then like for me, sometimes I get
Right,
inspired
right,
like watching like kids.
Yeah, yeah,
shows.
Wow.
Yeah, all these kid shows are quite.
Speaking of which, I watched this. Actually, I didn't really watch this for Ida. I probably watched it by myself.
Others are running elsewhere.
But there's this Ultraman Rising on Netflix. What? It's brilliant.
Wait,
Ultraman Rising.
Ultraman Rising?
It's like the most inspiring movie I've seen in a long time.
Really? Really? Is it a...
Ultraman Rising is like an animation. So
Okay.
it's done. It's in the style of like the whole Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
kind of similar creative direction, but it's super good.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah.
I mean, I see.
Without giving too much.
Yeah,
away,
I've
it's like
seen it.
basically it's like the next gen of Ultraman. It's like Ultraman's son, basically.
Right.
And then he finds himself in a situation where he has to now look after a baby kaiju, a baby monster.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and he has to kind of parent it. That's as much as I'll give away.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's a
Wow.
super inspiring film. So like sometimes most unlikely sources, I watched
Yeah,
that and I felt so like fired up and emotional as well. Dude, I cried, man. I cried watching it.
No, okay, so you know what's very interesting? I had a conversation with my wife about like what women and what men cry about.
Wow.
Like I was watching this Korean drama thing, but it's not really a drama, it's more like it's like a fighting thing lah.
Yeah.
But there's this scene where the main character kind of saves this little girl from being trafficked and whatnot. I was like, oh, this is super touching. My wife was just there like, you know what I mean? But like for me, I was like, oh, this is so touching. Like I could feel like, and I had this conversation. I can't remember who. You know the show 127 Hours? Like, you know the scene where he cut off his arm and he ran off and Cigarettes is playing. Man, I cried.
You cried.
I cried out of just.
You cried? Is it because Cigarettes was playing?
No, it's not because it's just that whole scene of like, yes, you can do it, you know. So I realized like, man, I'm going to cry over.
Yeah.
Different thing.
Yeah, just I watched the same
It's
thing.
true.
I watched the thing. My wife is like, good for him.
Yeah.
It looked like he hurt. It looked like he hurt a lot from me. I was like, yes.
Can I just say the sound design for that film was
Oh, yeah, it's really
genius, especially that scene where they
Yeah.
had this funny like kind of. It's almost like a like a string. I don't know what they did in there, but it was this like I just remember the thing that stood out for me. The thing that made me feel wasn't so much the visual, but it was that whatever sound they played. So
Right.
audio,
Yeah,
sound,
audio.
sound design plays a
Sound. Audio.
huge
Yeah,
role.
audio.
Audio. We're all audio. for me, what I've been really into is I found this guy on social media called Aiden Wang, and I've been into lights. In the sense of like
decorative lights.
no, it's just like how to light.
Lamp.
Okay, maybe like it's more like lighting the house. in a
Okay,
sense.
okay.
So like his philosophy is don't ever use, he call it the kill light, which is a ceiling light. Because why I got that, because my light died and I needed to change the light.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that LED lights for apartment is like the most pain in the butt to fix, because the ceiling height is always at an angle where it's slightly just too far for you, so you have to stretch it, and then your ladder doesn't go that far, and then it's just like this weird thing. And then there's the smallest screw in mankind. And then for some reason, always when you're changing, you can't really turn on the fan. So then you're sweating, and then if you turn on the aircon, and then your hands get clammy, and then your tools just start slipping, and then your tools fit in this like massive tiny hole. So basically, anyway, so I was like looking.
Is it massive tiny hole?
No, sorry.
Kindly bad, massive tiny hole.
Sorry, yeah, actually, no, it's actually this really tiny. Yeah, actually,
Half
this
is cheap.
Guys, this is going down. But anyway, it's just really this tiny hole. But anyway, how that came to be, so I was looking at how do you efficiently light a room. So, and then because I don't want to like change these lights forever, like it's gonna die again. So then I stumbled upon this guy saying actually small lamps across the room create different spots in the room that makes it a bit more section, like no, bit more section, but there's more sections around the room, which makes it very like unique, and
like
spaces
one
can be,
room.
not just like one dead light, I mean off white, then it's like, but have like small differences. So I've been really into that, and really aesthetically like, and it's like quite deep about lamps, like there's many different lamps, the different like bulbs of lamps. I found out there's such thing called clean white, and then there's a warm light. I'm like, it's just light, mate, but there's clean light, there's warm light. They look very different. I just feel like she call it like white and yellow, but no, clean and warm. That's how it goes. And then there's obviously IKEA lamps. That's quite the ish. Then there's also different lamps. There's also a thing that stands on it. There's also LED. What's this thing doing here? And so so I was like, so I was very inspired by
lamps.
Lamps. Yeah. If you ever need some lamp advice, follow Aiden Wang at in Instagram.
I think I've seen that video.
Right. And then plus also he has a really cute Shiba dog that is just like really cute dog.
Is it a guy that he turns off the light?
I think so. Could be one of
then it's like, then it's on, like,
it's like
I think
that one, So I was like, oh, that's very nice. And he uses warm light.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why I've been really inspired, because I was like, oh, let's turn on the lamp.
It
was just
house lights are like
pain.
You come from club, man.
The club.
I'm just saying, it's like when you want to chase everybody
out.
Then turn on the house lights, you're like,
okay, the show's over.
It's like
service finished.
It's really like church service.
It's like when you want people to leave.
Just
house
turn
lights.
on the house lights. It's like no ambience.
Kills the vibe, man.
Totally kills the vibe.
Yeah. That's true.
So lamps.
That's true. I put it that way. You won't go on a date with a house lights on, right? It's just like kills the tone.
Definitely.
True. But that's why I've been super inspired.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're all Malaysians. Last segment is so Leon. So Johnston and I always have a tradition whenever I come to a studio, we always go for chicken rice. Not all the time, but most often than not.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
And we all unite via food because we're all Malaysians, and you love food as well.
I do.
So what is your recommendation for food?
Yes.
Wow.
That you're
Like
looking anything that you're vibing with right now.
Maybe I can tell you a favorite place.
Okay. Yes.
Favorite Thai restaurant. So I like to begin with. I think like I probably had this conversation with you, like favorite cuisine.
Yes.
And I think it would be Thai food.
Okay.
Just simply on the basis of what could I, if that was the only thing I could eat, what could I just eat forever? And I think Thai food would probably fit the bill. So I'll go down the line of Thai food is my favorite cuisine.
Right.
What's my favorite Thai restaurant? it's a place called. This one is more like on the. I'll give an upscale that I give the lower scale. The upscale one is a place called Lamun. On. It's in the TCDI.
Okay.
So that to me is like the best Thai restaurant.
Right.
Okay.
It's a little pricier.
Right.
Okay.
But it's super authentic. So the chef there, his name is Chef Korn. He used to be a chef for the royal family.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right. Just name.
In Thailand.
Name drop.
And so then he and together with his late business partner set up this restaurant.
Okay.
So we've been going there for the longest time because they used to have like they were completely unknown. They just had like a little shop,
Right.
Kota Damansara, where it used
Okay.
to be. And then they soon started gaining notoriety.
Yeah.
And then now they have this thing called Laboon. It used to be called Era One.
Oh.
And then now they're called Laboon. Yeah. But they're like it's like the best tom yum.
Right.
And they do what's surprising is they do some things which are super simple, but they do it so well. It's like how does this stir fried veggie, which is just basically like soy sauce and garlic,
Right.
why does this taste so good?
Right.
And it's so simple. Sometimes I feel like that is the real genius of
Yeah.
they
Mm.
make something so
Simple.
taste so
Right,
otherworldly.
Lamun.
Lamun.
So Thai restaurant Lamun, in terms of the like upper scale of things. Actually, in the past I would have said lower scale, but it's not really lower scale anymore. But I like Absolute Thai.
Oh.
Absolute Thai for me just like it just gets the job done.
Right. Like.
But lately I feel like they've become a little
Pricey.
more pricey.
Pricey. Okay.
Yeah. But those two are probably my favorite.
Thai food. Oh.
Now, so how you spell Lamun?
LAMOON.
Oh, like
It's
Lamun.
like very non-Thai sounding.
Yeah, Lamun.
Lamun.
The French. Right.
Oh.
But Thai food here actually really is like the rice. You gotta have
Yeah.
like jasmine rice.
It's always so good, and always they like can balance salty, sour,
sweet.
spicy.
Yeah. All those components is.
Thai food. Yeah, man. So hungry now.
Yeah.
So hungry. But thanks so much, Leon, for
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for
recommending.
having me.
But yeah, I think that's our podcast for
Yeah,
this
it's our
wraps
podcast
up
for
everything. Thanks so much, Leon,
Thanks,
for
Leon.
joining us. Oh, and I should plug. Leon also has a podcast with his dad called The Game of Impossible that you guys should check out as well. It's great. They're on episode 30. No, 39. Whenever
today is when this goes live,
probably
30 and
32, 30, beyond. They are father-son. Well, I shouldn't say. Maybe you want to intro it better.
Now we're basically a father-son podcast, and we talk about leadership and doing difficult and impossible things.
Yeah, and it's great. They are very nice people, and we'll link it down below.
They're very nice people.
They're very nice people.
The gist of the podcast. They're nice people.
The
Go watch it.
Nice people.
No, there's great and nice people. I should put that out there.
Great and nice people.
yes, great nice people. But yeah, so check that out. We'll link that down below, or in Spotify and on YouTube. So yeah,
Thanks.
thanks guys. Thanks Leon.
Thanks, guys.
We'll
This was
see
fun.
you on the next episode.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Nice.
Nice, man.
Nice.
Guys, I gotta bounce.
Yes.
Go. Thanks
Go,
so
go,
much,
go.
man. This was fun.
Thanks,
I really
Leon.